All right, you guys ready? You
I think
Megan?
I'm
Okay, good
ready.
morning. How are you? All right, so I guess we'll get started. So good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Giovanni Nicosia. I'm the owner of Supreme Title and Escrow, and I've been a real estate attorney for about 25 years, not about over 25 years. And what we're trying to do is like basically, really since October 1st, do like about 3 educational courses a week, usually every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And today we're doing, a top producer mastermind with Megan Romine from Douglas Elliman. And, basically, I'm going to be asking Megan some questions, about her real estate career, what she does, what she's done to get to where she's at. And, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask, because really that's how you learn, by asking questions. No question is stupid. Ask whatever you want. Um, so basically, but before we get started, just a couple things I'll just mention. Today we're doing like a pies and prosecco giveaway at my office. So if you're in the area, stop by. We got pies, we got prosecco. Stop by the office, pick it up. Like my office is by State Road 84 and I-95. So we'll be here like 5:30. So if you're close by, just come on by, and we'll go ahead. So good morning, Megan. How you doing today?
Good morning. I am doing great. Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, so let's go. How long you been doing real estate now?
I've been in the real estate industry for almost 14 years. I started off in property management.
Okay, so I know you moved from West Virginia, right? When were you doing real estate in West Virginia?
I was doing property management and managing properties in West Virginia. I moved to South Florida. When I had moved to South Florida, I'd never been to South Florida before. So when I drove down here, that was my first experience being in South Florida. And I had gotten hired by a developer to do lease ups for rentals in properties. That's how I started. I always wanted to do real estate on my own. A lot of people like around me and just in general, oh, real estate, it's so hard. Like people don't ever really make it. And I decided to make the decision and move off and do my own thing shortly after. So being a licensed real estate agent in the state of Florida, I believe I was licensed around 2017.
2007. So okay, how long were you here before you got licensed?
I moved here in 2013.
Okay, so you're okay. So 2017 is when you started really doing real estate full time.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and you know, what, basically, when you first got started, what challenges did you have?
Not having any clients.
Okay.
I didn't have a database of clientele. I didn't really understand. I mean, I had been in leasing, but I didn't even know how to write a contract for a sale, for a purchase. It was an uphill battle because I didn't have a book of business, not from South Florida. I didn't have any clientele that I had been working with. And I really hustled rentals for a long time. When I first started selling real estate, it took me a year to sell my first house. And the first house I sold was like, I think 300,000 or less.
So like, yeah, because I think I remember you telling me that you mainly first started with rentals, and then
I was doing about 10 rentals a month to survive.
and how
Yes.
would you go about getting the rentals?
I was posting on Craigslist. I
Okay.
would post on Craigslist. I would post on different websites, advertising these rental communities that were paying real estate agents. And that's how I built up a lot of business.
And I know a lot of people, like, I guess they frown on Craigslist stuff like that, but you could really still do that, correct? You could still advert, like, because I tell people that, like, let's say, these buildings on Los Olas and stuff like that. People could really advertise those, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, I do know agents, and especially some agents that are starting out, that, that's how they're making their living. That's how you make money. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you have to start somewhere. So I feel like with social media and everything that's going in with the world, newer agency, oh wow, I'm going to get my license and I'm going to sell all these expensive houses and it's going to be great. And that's not necessarily the reality of the situation. It's having patience, persistence, consistency with your work. But there are things that you can do that are free. I believe that you had a class on this, different items that you can
Yeah.
do for no cost. There's
And what
definitely
one thing I remember you mentioned also, I guess, also the, following up with these people, being, staying on top of them, even, once they're becoming rental clients, to, stay, keep on top of them till they become buyers. I remember you mentioned things like that.
So there's a couple things that, like, if I could go back and do differently from the beginning of my career, and one of them is serious follow-up. So I think that we all as agents can get a little guilty of this. You get someone in your database and then maybe they're not looking to buy or sell anytime, anytime in the next quarter, and it kind of gets pushed to the wayside. So I cannot stress the importance of, if you don't already have a CRM, having your CRM, putting everyone into your CRM, and making sure that you're following up. Now, one like small thing that I like to do in my phone is that if someone calls me, I label it, and I'll label like investor or waterfront. And I always put the word lead in there. And the reason that I do that, so let's say that, so highest and best use of time, if for some reason I have to go to the car dealership or something like that, I'm sitting there, I will type in my phone lead, and it brings up all of those people, and I'm touching base. Hey, how are you? Hey, how have things been going? Is there anything that I can help you with? Having the organization, having systems in place is definitely helpful whenever it comes to follow up.
And what other things do you do right now for marketing?
So for marketing, right now I do have someone that does more of like a marketing director. And really what I focus on is, what am I telling my audience? What story, am I telling my audience? What kind of clientele am I trying to gravitate towards? So, I do my social media, Instagram. Instagram has always been really great to me. I have picked up some big clients and made a large ROI off of Instagram. It's about staying consistent with that. I do direct mailers. Phone calls. I got a listing in Bal Harbor the other day, 1.750 off a cold call.
Wow.
Who's calling? Hey, are you considering selling your property anytime now or in the future? Actually, we are. Can you be here in an hour? I showed up in an hour. There were 3 other real estate agents' folders on the table. I gave them my pitch. I got the listing. That's from a cold call. So I think a few things, not to go down a rabbit hole, but sometimes with real estate agents, we have so many different hats and do so many things. Like, don't forget just to go back to the basics. So with my marketing, email blasts, I do weekly email blasts. Anytime that I meet someone, I'm taking their business card, I'm putting it into my MailChimp, I'm putting it into my CRM, I'm making sure that I follow up. A great networking tip is, if you go to a networking event, I think the really good networkers, I can't say that I'm a professional networker. Say that if you're better at networking, like aim to meet 10 new people. I always try to go for like 5. I get their contact information, but follow up. The next day, you should be texting them, hey, it was great to meet you last night. I hope we stay in contact. Follow their Instagram, follow their LinkedIn. Especially business professionals are using a lot of LinkedIn. My weekly emails definitely get deals off those as well.
Like you mentioned, like Instagram, like how long have you been, I know you have like over 20,000, followers on Instagram. Like how long have you been consistently posting on Instagram?
For a really long time, years. And the thing with Instagram is that it's not instant gratification. It's just consistency, just like anything else. So consistently doing that. And also too, that I found, like, if you know an agent and they have a great property, hey, can I post this on my social media? You definitely want to ask. You have to be within the regulations. But if an agent gives you permission, you could find a buyer off that.
Yeah, like I've told some people this before, and some of you may have heard the story, but like one morning I was looking at Instagram and I saw a post, and it was a triplex in Crescent Park for $400,000, and the person who posted it was Megan. So I thought it was her listing. I immediately called her because 400,000 for a triplex in Crescent Park, thought was an amazing deal. It turned out it wasn't her listing. She was advertising someone else's listing, but we did put a contract together and closed. So from that Instagram post, she made it, was 12,000, right? Is that 3% commission, right? Yeah, whatever it
whatever.
was. Okay. But then, I fixed up the place. A year later, I sold it for 700,000. And, I used Megan as a realtor. She got the buyer and, basically got both sides, charged me 5%. So basically made another 35,000. So from one Instagram post, basically made $48,000, right? Is that or $47,000, right? From one Instagram post that wasn't even her listing. So, people on here, you know, even if it's not your listing, you can, you do find good deals. You can advertise. And then what you just actually, because we'll talk about, I guess, Megan does have a team right now. And, about a month ago, I did get an email blast from one of her agents and same thing. It was like, I saw it was like a $700,000 waterfront property in Pompano, which is unheard of. And I immediately contacted her thinking, once again, it was her listing. And it wasn't. She was out, she saw a good deal, she advertised it, and we went to look and we put an offer, we didn't get it accepted. But both those times I wasn't looking, I wasn't planning on buying anything, but I just, when I saw a good deal, I had to jump on it. But that's just like, I'll use, on this call, if and if you don't have listings, look for good deals and advertise them. The key is to get your phone to ring. They're not going to know whether it's your listing or not. The main thing is get your phone to ring and then hopefully show them the property and hopefully get them to buy it.
And when you're coming across people that may be interested, everyone says they want a good deal. So when you're saving that in your phone, so for me, put lead, I'm putting investor, or in my CRM, I'm doing hashtag investor. So whenever I do see a decent deal, I'm going to my CRM, I'm typing in hashtag investor, it brings all of those people up. Because you have to have these systems in place to keep track of this, or like you're going to end up losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars if you are of opportunity out there. Now, another thing that I would like to mention is, it's real estate 101, but relationships. So my first, really the larger side of listings, over 5 million, I think at that time it was 6 million. That was a relationship that I went to a party, and it was the builder that was listing his own listing, and I stayed consistent with him. It took over a year, probably close to a year and a half of me following up with him. Hey, what can I help you with? I'll do some free marketing for you. Would you like a nice video of the house? I noticed that there's not a video. Those relationships over time end up paying dividends because you're also building trust. So just like how Giovanni has his pies and Prosecco's, anything that you can do, let's say that maybe you can only do it once a year, twice a year, keep a list of the deals that you've done in your sphere of influence and send them something to remind them that you're thinking of them. Because I'll be transparent, listen, everyone's business is different. But the amount of money that we've spent on Zillow and the rate of return for us personally, it's not that great. And I will honestly say that I'm going to be canceling my Zillow. My highest and best rate of return is my sphere of influence. And how I build that sphere of influence, a lot of it comes with networking, relationships, Instagram, MailChimp, just actively being in front of people.
Yeah, Ashley recommended what CRM do you use? So I guess MailChimp is the one you recommend?
Okay, for CRM, so MailChimp is what I send my email blasts out in. The reason why I like MailChimp is because I can see the open rate, and I can, see some more analytics. The CRM that I'm using right now, I'm with Douglas Elliman, so they have their own called WeChat. I think that any CRM, as long as it's user friendly. One that I really liked in the past is Conversion. So there's one that's called Conversion. It can be a little on the pricier side, but Conversion was great because you could create ads for different listings, and then you can add the link to your social media. That's another thing. You can do this with most CRMs. Even WeChat has it. If there's a listing that I have, I will put it up on my social media and then have a link where people can actually see the property. Conversion had it to where it would capture the people's information, which was really helpful. So if they want to keep looking, they have to enter in their email address. And the more contacts that you can get, the more you're going to build your business over time.
And so, I don't know how you would share this, but what's your listing presentation like in person? Someone asked.
So I do a couple things with my listing presentation. So of course, most of us have, like Douglas Elliman has like their listing presentation. Most big brokerages do. I have to be transparent and say I'm not that impressed with those listing presentations. Do I have mine? Yes, but I make a detailed property specific listing presentation for every listing that I go on. And the way that I market is that every home is unique. So what I do for your home is going to be maybe a little different than what I do for a house in a different neighborhood. So I try to get as specific as possible. And I also try to figure out, who the buyers are, where they're coming from, and how I'm going to market to get in front of them.
Okay. I guess one story I want to share about Megan, like, a few years ago, she owned a property, like, and she was telling me she was selling it, and I was asking her why. And she basically told me she was going to sell it and basically go move into like an apartment building on Los Olas. And the reason was basically to meet, clients. She says, if these people can afford to pay $4, $5, $6,000 a month rent, they could afford to buy. And I thought that was interesting. And I mean, I guess you could say about how that experience turned out. I mean, I know it turned out good for you, what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do feel that it can be challenging as an agent because you're like, wait, how am I supposed to do all of these different things? But at the end of the day, the way that you're going to get business is being out and meeting people. You have to be meeting and connecting with people and building relationships. So yeah, I had moved into Alluvion and I met all different kinds of people, and we got a lot of business from the connections that I've made. Also made amazing connections for my team. People that are on my team and different avenues. So I'm always thinking when it comes to where I live, like how can that also like benefit like my business as well? So I always try to, position myself and think strategically about where I am and how that's going to affect my business.
How many people are on your team now?
Right now, I have 7 agents. That's including me. I have 7 agents. I have 2 admins, and I have a marketing director.
And so, basically, you're a producing, realtor. You have a big, nice sized team. How do you manage your time? You basically, how do you, do it all?
I mean, that's a great question. I have to be very careful with my time. Everything that I do has to be highest and best use of time. And I talk about this, and like before, I used to be like, oh, I don't want people to like think a certain way, but I don't clean my house. I don't go to the grocery store. I have other people that do that for me because highest and best use of my time per hour. So as you grow your business, you have to kind of think about, okay, where is my time best spent and best utilized? And also too, some of you may or may not know, like I used to own a brokerage. And for me, I absolutely love selling houses. So I like to stick to what my strengths are, what I like to do. And for me personally, it wasn't having, an enormous team of a bunch of different agents, because you guys have to remember, I think that it sounds good and great as you're growing. Oh yeah, I'm going to have this big team. But if the team isn't producing, and if you're not producing, you're just going to be spinning your wheels, dealing with other things that aren't actually income producing activities. I want to take that one step further. So with managing my time and also helping my agents manage their time as well, 2 things. I figure out what people's strengths are and what their superpowers are. We all have it. And if you figure out what your strength is, you need to double down on that. So it's scientifically proven that if you are, above average at something, if you try to get better, you're going to significantly get better. If you just are like at average at something, comparatively speaking, you can spend just as much time and you're only going to go like up to here. So you got to figure out what your superpower is. And with my team, I figure out what these agents' superpower is, how we can plug and play that into our team so we can keep building up our numbers, that they're making money and that we're producing. The second portion of this I wanted to mention is it's proven that if you track the activities that you're doing, and then you can figure out what you're doing is actually working. An example, I have mandatory Monday reports for my agents. It's asking, what did you do in the past week? What could you have done better? What are you executing in your business? What deals do you have going on? And where are you at with the leads? Not only does it hold you accountable, but you can see if you track weekly what you're doing, I'm telling you, your numbers are going to get better. I have a business mentor. He went as far as tracking his daily habits, and he saw a 20% increase in his production over a year from just doing this tracking. But we're also talking about an individual that has made hundreds of millions of dollars. We're not just talking about, your average maybe millionaire or someone that's successful. So it's a proven fact. The better that you can get at utilizing your time, the better ultimately like your business is going to run.
Let me ask, like you said, okay, you start off with rentals. What do you think got you from doing from rentals to doing like, waterfront properties in Broward County? What do you think got you to the next level?
Great question. I always had like set out that that's what I wanted to do. And, my highest house that I had sold at the time was like 700,000. I jumped from 700,000 to 6 million. And it was scary. I'm not going to, try to sugarcoat that in any way. I had to get very uncomfortable. And there were a couple things, I've had some great mentors over the years. I think the more that you can learn about your business, the more that you can do better about marketing. And then like, you have to have the confidence. So it's something easier said than done. But, that client is going to need to feel that you're confident that you're going to be able to sell this multi-million-dollar property. A lot of it had to do with my marketing. A lot of it had to do with mentorship over the years, cumulative of what I had learned, but I had to step out of my comfort zone and I had to go all in. So, I mean, even nowadays, like I am all in. There is no backup plan here. I'll be like transparent with numbers. I mean, my overhead costs, I'm looking at over 30,000 a month. So like there's no backup plan here. And like, regardless of, but I started out, what I can remember when I had overhead of $1,500 a month and I was nervous. So you have to think that you're building your risk muscle over and over. And it's cumulative, but you just really have to get out of your comfort zone. And whatever you're doing, whether it's your waterfront properties or you're working with investors, you have to stay consistent with that message to your audience.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, hang on a second. So, okay, what advice would you give a new realtor just starting out?
Yes. I would say you got to find a mentor. But you find a mentor, someone that you can learn from. And listen, at the end of the day, you're probably going to take a lower split. But like, I can say that when I first started out, I mean, I would get half of half. I sold a house once and made $200. Listen, I made sacrifices. And if I wouldn't have done that, I would not be where I am at today. So you have to get in the mindset of you need to find a mentor if you don't have one already, because you need to figure out how to get through these deals. It's one thing showing houses, but how are you going to get through these deals? How are you going to get creative with the deals? Another thing is consistency and mindset. I know it's easier said than done, but you have to think this business is up and down, up and down. So I find a lot of the times that agents like just give up a little like easy, like, oh, this isn't how I was expecting this to go. And even nowadays, we'll have quarters that aren't good quarters, but you have to think like, hey, I'm in this for the long run. Go back to business 101, do the things that you don't want to do, make phone calls, door knock. I mean, I was door knocking a few months ago. You have to do things that are making you uncomfortable, but be consistent. And what I recommend doing is figure out where some of your sales have come in the past. And I would make a list of, up to 4, maybe 5 different sources that you think your leads may come through, whether you're making phone calls, you're doing email blasts, you're hitting your sphere of influence. And you need to make sure that every week you're actually doing that. You need to write it down, because it's one thing saying, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then you notice it's 3 weeks later and you haven't made a phone call for 3 weeks. Those would be some of the things that I would keep in mind.
Yeah, I heard a great quote like the other day. It was like basically, people don't fail, they quit. And that's the truth. Is people like, it's just like they do something one time or two times, it doesn't work and they quit instead, but if you're consistent, regardless of what, whether you're cold calling, whether you're door knock, whatever it is, it's going to work as long as you're consistent and don't give up, and that's the problem. People just give up too easy, I think, instead of, following through with it.
And I'm very transparent with my team. And listen, you guys, do you think that there hasn't been a time where I'm like, maybe I should quit? Like, it gets so hard. This is not, listen, if real estate was easy, everyone would be independently wealthy and selling a bunch of houses. Your mindset needs to be, I'm going to be the best at what I do, and I'm going to work really hard to get there. And just remember, there's no like, it doesn't happen overnight. I think that's a hard thing too for agents. It was really hard for me that, it takes years to build up. But if you're doing some of the things that we're talking about, you're going to make it, you're going to survive. Be mindful of your finances, because you do a big deal here or there. I recommend living below your means. And anytime that you get a deal, make sure that you're putting a percentage aside to put money back into your business. Now, you have to be careful with this, because what I see agents do too is they get some money under their belt and they go wild, and then all of a sudden they spend all their money and they're like, wait, but I, got all these Zillow leads and this isn't working, that isn't working. You have to slowly work your way up there, and start looking like at your ROI. And I always recommend, if you're doing a new lead source, make sure that you can stick it out for 6 months. Do anything for a minimum of 6 months. If you're looking at paying for leads, the paying for leads thing, some people it works out great, but for us personally, we've just found better ROI in other aspects.
So you keep track of like where all your business comes from?
Yes.
Someone asked, what are you doing marketing wise to promote your listings?
Okay, so to promote listings and also like keep clients informed, there's a few things, like obviously direct mailers. So we do direct mailers. We do our weekly email blasts that look beautiful. Open houses, try to do as many open houses as we can. And that's so important, especially agents. If you're like, oh, like I need leads, why aren't you sitting at an open house? Who like, oh, well, I did an open house last weekend and no one came in. Okay, then you should be doing work at your computer and you're sitting there, and you have to do it consistently. I just want to share this one story really quickly. There's a friend of mine that's an agent, and he sat an open house almost every single weekend for a year. It took a year. The commission he ended up making was over $500,000.
Yeah.
And
No,
I would drive past his listing and I always saw his open house sign. And you guys, that's commitment. That's what it takes. But aside from that, so promoting listings, so email blasts, social media, direct mail. I'm going to send out letters to the neighbors. Hey, do you or your friends and family, if you know anyone, this listing is coming live. You can also do digital ads is always good. I mean, like through Douglas Elliman, we have a platform where you can send out the digital ads. I'm a walking billboard. When I go and preview houses, other agents, hey, keep in mind, my listing over at Bell Harbor, Best Price Waterfront, East Fort Lauderdale, come over and take a look. I mean, anything that I can do to get the marketing out there. I had a new construction project. I decided to put together a presentation and go to pitch it to other offices. Agent to agent relationships are really important. Most of the time, other agents are going to be the one bringing you your clients and your deals too when it comes to listings. So you want to make sure that you're getting your listings in front of other agents as well. Like, listen, I'm not sure how long, if you're listening, like you've been in real estate, but the days of just throwing it up on the MLS, those days are over. You got to be working your listing in and out, to really be able to get maximum exposure. And you want your clients to feel good about it. I mean, At the end of the day, there are some listings, there's like a lot of high demand, and sometimes things just like come in and, happen like they should. Everyone is happy. But, there are some more difficult listings too. And you just want to make sure that you're trying to touch every different avenue that you can. I hope that helps answer that question.
Yeah, you mentioned open houses. That's something like I don't understand. Like that's something I always tell agents too. Like to do like I see your team every weekend. They're doing open houses every weekend consistently. And it's same thing. If you don't have any listings, contact other agents, in areas and ask if you can do their open house. A lot of people will let you, do their open houses. And it's a great way to meet potential buyers. It's a great way to meet neighbors. And it's a great way to get your name out there, Same thing, like if your neighbors are seeing you consist, just like you mentioned before, but that person who's there every week, every week. If these people are seeing you, they're out there every week, you're going to get to know them. And then maybe if their house is listed and it's not selling and their listing expires, you might be the first one they think about relisting the property, because they're seeing you're out there hustling.
Yes. And another thing too is like people are like, oh, but I don't have any listings, but this is a great way to get listings. So if you have an agent that is willing to allow you to do an open house, I mean, listen, you guys, that's free leads. I've seen a lot of like different team agreements, and most agents, if they have it on their team, like you have to pay an agent a referral fee. So like you should consider like lucky, that if there's an agent that has a house, like you can do an open house. Hey, just do the open house. You don't have to pay a referral fee or anything. That's amazing. Get in there and then go door knock. Go door knock and let the neighbors know. Listen, I know the door knocking's not for everyone. It's not necessarily enjoyable, but you're adding value. You're knocking on the neighbor's door. Hey, I'm inviting you to my open house this weekend. Like that's a fairly like easy concept. People are usually very receptive to that. People are going to see your face. You're going to get more business out of it. But yeah, I can't stress that enough, because I think some agents get, discouraged because it's like, oh, well, I did 2 open houses or I did 10 open houses. I haven't really got that much from it. But also too, what's happening after the open house? So first of all, your preparation. Are you door knocking? If you have a call system, you should be calling, circle prospecting that area. And then also too, after the open house, are you just taking your open house sheet and just tossing it to the side and then it goes in your desk drawer and you never see it again? You should be taking that contact information, putting it into your CRM, using the hashtag of whatever the property is. That's another thing that I do. Anyone that inquires about a specific property goes into a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet, that's what we use to retarget people. And if anything happens with that listing, if there's a price reduction or something happens, it goes back to organization. So those are a couple things.
Yeah, like we said, the door knocking, especially if you have an open house, I don't think people are going to be rude. If you just go there knocking on the door, but if you have like, I think neighbors are always curious to what their neighbor's house are selling for, or what their neighbor's house looks like. So if you're going there inviting them to this house, I think it's definitely an easy way to talk to people, and I think they're going to be receptive to that. They're not going to just
people are much more receptive to that
yeah.
versus just like door knocking, because I do both, but people are much more receptive than just like a random door knock.
Yeah, so I mean, exactly. Like you have a reason to be there, and it's something that actually you're giving them, because everyone's curious. Everyone thinks their house is the best, and my house is nicer than that. It would sell for more. So if they're seeing that selling for, let's say, 800,000, they're going to think, okay, well, mine can sell for more. So it's definitely a great way to meet people.
Another thing too, to give your seller realistic expectations, is some sellers are like, oh yeah, but like that's just nosy neighbors coming in. But you have to like change the perspective. That nosy neighbor might have a friend or a family member, and they're going to remember coming into your open house. So the more eyes that you can get on the house, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Because some people want, like I said, a family or friend to live in their neighborhood. So you may think they're nosy, but it could actually be the one selling your property or bringing that buyer.
Yeah.
Someone asked, do you have any employees?
Yes, I have 1099 contractors, but full-time assistant. I also do a virtual assistant, and I do have someone that does my marketing. Those are like the 3 main points, that
What
I
does like
have.
the virtual assistant mainly do?
The virtual assistant helps with scheduling and helps schedule a lot of my follow-ups too.
Okay. Hang on a second. Any other questions? I mean, you could unmute yourself too if you want to. Anybody, if you have any questions, you have to put it in the chat. Hang on a second. anything, and it said, so in today's market, do you recommend farming a particular area than growing your farm or working on everywhere?
It's a great question. I always recommend that if you can, depending on like what like your budget is, I mean, you should definitely always farm an area. If you can get it up to farming 2 areas, but you just have to be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do and I'm sticking to it. Right now I farm 2 areas specifically. I think because people are going to keep seeing your face if you do direct mailers, things of that nature. Listen, like farming like Los Olas Isles, like as a newer agent, like I wouldn't do that. Like you have to like kind of get creative. Man, one agent of mine did so well. She chose an area, she chose Riverland, and like Riverland isn't like super oversaturated. Like sometimes you got to get creative with different markets. Like if you're going to pick like Los Olas Isles and Victoria Park, you better be ready to put a lot of money in, and I'm not sure what your ROI is going to be. But get a little creative with maybe some areas that aren't already completely dominated. And I definitely a fan of farming areas. Also get good at storytelling. So, what I've done with a lot of my marketing is, part of my pitch is like, I sell difficult properties. Maybe they haven't been able to sell before. Maybe they've been on the market before, unique waterfront properties. And then I tell a story. I also have a copywriter too. So my copywriter, I sit down with, and now you guys can use Chat GPT. Like a lot of the stuff, you don't need to be investing as much money as I do by any means. But to figure out how you're going to tell a story about how you sold a particular home, and people need to know that. You don't just do your closed sale and like, oh, it's good and done. Like you need to be promoting that and let people know like how you're helping these buyers and sellers.
What areas do you farm right now?
Los Olas Isles, which is a rough one. It's rough. It's not easy. I also do Pompano Beach waterfront.
And how long have you been concentrating on those 2 areas?
Los Olas Isles, almost 2 years. And I'd be honest with you, Los Olas Isles, it's a tough one. Pompano Beach, a little over a year. Pompano Beach tends to do a little better. Definitely. But my phone calls are East Fort Lauderdale up to close to Deerfield. I mean, even for me, I'm even looking at expanding a little more, especially as I get more help and get more, with employees, contractors, whatever you want to call them. I just want to like keep expanding.
When you say like Los Olas Isles is a tough area, is a lot of competition, or what
So much competition. I mean, you're having, the best of the best, the celebrity agents, all of that. And your marketing cost is high, top dollar. So, for me, I already knew what I was up against, but like I made that decision. But like I said, like there are much better farming areas. Something that I found is extremely helpful on my team during our monthly meetings, every team member has a different neighborhood. And every month we sit down and we look at the number of closed sales, the price per square foot, average days on market, what's changing in the neighborhood. Is there any new construction projects? Man, I can't tell you guys, when I'm doing cold calls, and then I had one with this guy in Victoria Park, and he was so annoyed because he gets so many calls, right? And I start talking to him about price per square foot in the neighborhood, roughly what his land alone is. Listen, I can't tell you how much your house is worth. I haven't seen it. I can tell you your land by looking at the tax records is roughly worth X amount of dollars. And in the past, 30 days, this is the price per square foot, blah, blah, blah. He was blown away. He was like, you like really know your stuff. And what we do is we keep those reports in a Google Drive. So every agent on my team has access to those. So if you have a client that calls you up about Harbor Beach, listen, you can only like remember so much information, right? But you can pull a sheet off Google Drive and you have an idea of what's really going on in the market. You need to be the market expert.
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell people. Like, if you're a little slow right now, now's the time to educate yourself. like I said, be the smartest person in the room, whether you're talking to, family, friends, a potential buyer, potential seller, that you know more about their house, about more about their neighborhood than them. And that's what's going to impress them, because there's a lot of competition out there. But if you show them that, your stuff, it's like, you mentioned right there, that's what's going to get them to hire you. And so, use this time right now.
What's also been really helpful for my business, and listen, I know this is a lot, and it's like, wait, like, how do you get all this done? But you guys, like, I haven't taken a day off in over 2 months. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not sugarcoating things. I mean, you have to be willing. It depends on what your goals are and where you want to be. But I mean, you have to be willing to sacrifice at some point in time. But looking at these properties in person, because when you go into a listing appointment, and you know what I mean? Like if you've seen the other houses, you know why that house on Fiesta Way has been on the market for so long, because it's been an Airbnb and the layout is terrible. The pictures look great, but you don't know what a house actually looks like until you walk into the house. So I recommend, if you choose a nice farm area, go to those open houses. Saturday mornings, just pop in. It's also great to make agent connections too, but knowing your product and knowing your market is really going to help set you apart.
Yeah, and also content for your social media. You could be filming these, open houses you're attending.
That too. Now, I will have to say though, you have to be careful, you guys, especially in the higher price ranges. You don't want to upset the other agents because, and I hear top agents talk about it. Like they don't want agents coming into their place and putting like bad social media stuff. Like to the agent, it might be like, this looks good. And then the other agent is like, this is not great representation of my listing. So best practice is like ask like, hey, can I do photos? Can I do videos? Because also too, you don't want to like upset anyone. I mean, you're trying to get deals done and trying to build agent relationships. So I always I think it's good to, especially on the high end stuff, ask before you do that. If you can, I would recommend.
Here's a couple questions in the chat. One person asked, what company do you use for your direct mailers?
Leader and Print.
Okay, use them. That's right.
Yep. Leader.
Yeah, they're out of Boca. Are they out of Boca?
They're out of Boca. But you guys remember with mailers, you can't just send out like a one mailer. I mean, it's a pretty significant investment and you need to be committed to it. So, and then also too, like, you have to schedule what you're sending out. Like this isn't autopilot stuff. So you need to be strategic about it. We'd like to send ours out once every 6 weeks, and it's an investment. You can't just do it for a couple months. Oh, well, I haven't sold a house, so I'm not going to do it again. Like, no, if you're going to do mailers, the mailers have to stay consistent. If you're not able to financially do that, that's fine. It's not a make or break. An alternative, I would say, is if you get a listing in the area, at least making sure that you're sending out letters. And you guys, direct mail is expensive. You know what you can also do? You can get on Canva, you can print out the letters yourself, and you can stuff the envelopes yourself. Like there's no excuses. There's always like a way around things if like financially it doesn't make sense for you.
So, okay, what was your first brokerage you worked for, and what was the determining factor you choose them over someone else?
So one of the first ones, like in my mind, like the first one that like I had like really like worked with, it was Florida's Best Realty out of Boca, and it was because of the mentorship. The very easy question to answer, like, the large brokerages, and like, listen, Douglas Elliman is phenomenal, but like being a new agent, like you need someone that's going to show you the ropes, and it is going to cost money. Like, one of the people that I work with, the higher ups, is like, your car doesn't leave the driveway, for unless X amount of dollars. You can't expect, and this is just my opinion, but you can't expect like a top agent to like bend over backwards for you if you're not like adding value. So like you have to think about, hey, how can I add value and make this a win-win? Because I see like the mindset sometimes of newer agents, like, oh, well, I'm just going to go with 100% company because I'm going to get all my commission. I'm sorry, that makes no sense to me. What are you learning? You could stay under someone for a couple years and maybe your split is less. But like I said, if it wasn't for what I did in this sacrifices that I made, especially like split wise and stuff, I'd be nowhere close to where I am today. And I still have like so much more to do. I always feel like I'm just getting started.
Well, there's another question. I have a question. You said you have like a business coach. Do you also have a coach with real estate wise?
Great question. I've used a real estate coach in the past. I think that it depends on like what season you're at in your business. I think it can be very helpful to hold you accountable. A couple ideas that I'd have for you. So, I got to the point where I needed like a larger business mentor. So like the mentor that I look up to is not fully in the real estate space, but teaches a lot about highest and best use of time and just best business practices. Really, like you're running a business, especially when you get to a point and you have different employees and stuff, you're running a business. But another good idea, listen, if you do have some money to invest in your business, it's not a bad idea. Another one of my mentors gave me this idea to reach out to a top agent. It may be an agent that's probably not in your market, right? Reach out to an agent and be like, I will pay you, X amount of dollars for X amount of hours if you'd be willing to have a 1 hour Zoom call with me, once a month or once every 2 weeks. And if they're not in your target audience, you guys, you have to think like these are people that have been doing it and have been extremely successful at it. So those are some things to consider if you're trying to think, how can I gather more information to get better?
Someone asked, what made you decide to go from a single agent to having a team, and what are the pros and cons of each?
Great question. I've most of my career, I've always ran teams. I wasn't really a single agent for very long before I started like attracting agents, but like for me, I think that not that I think I know my bigger purpose in life is truly like helping other people. So being able to help people, help add value to people, that is where it came into play for me. The pros of having a team is like having different strengths, right? Different strengths that you can apply to different areas of business. But I mean, agents beware. Running a team is no easy task. And if you're not careful, you're going to end up exerting all this different energy into all of these different agents, and your business is going to suffer. So you just kind of really, it has to come down to like, what's your why? What's your purpose? How is it going to be helpful? I think one of the best advice that I can give is whenever it gets to a point financially where you can hire an assistant, that definitely helps your business. But listen, it's going to be scary. You're going to look at the salary or whatever it is and be like, I don't know if I can afford that. But you better get to work so you can, because at the end of the day, that's going to be one of the ways to grow your business. Because you take a little bit of a risk with running teams. People, it's cyclical. People go in and out. It's definitely challenge. I love what I do. I'm grateful for the people that I work with, but it is no walk in the park. That's for sure.
What year did you start a team? 'Cause I think when I first met you, I think you were working on your own. When did you start a team?
I started teams back when I was with Florida's Best Realty. So, I started a team shortly after I just started really selling real estate. But like I said, for me, it comes down to like my bigger purpose in life was always like adding value. So I think that it was just like the nature of like my personality. But it definitely came with its own struggles, and sometimes it was counterproductive throughout my career. Now I feel like I have a great system going on, and it's taken many years like to get, to this point.
Okay. We have any other questions? Anybody? Like I said, you could unmute yourself if you want, or you can put it in the chat, whatever you prefer. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining. I hope that I added some value, and also too, if you guys have a minute, if my Instagram is Mermaid Realtor, message me and let me know like what was your biggest value add like from today. Like I always love to know like what things I share like can really help people's businesses. I always love that feedback. And hopefully we can, do some deals together.
I have a question. You just mentioned your Instagram's Mermaid Realtor. How long have you been marketing yourself as Mermaid Realtor?
Oh my gosh, the Mermaid Realtor. So that's how I ended up quitting my corporate role in real estate, is because I came up with this idea of the Mermaid Realtor because I love ocean and diving so much. And it really just became my business. That's how I like really got into waterfront properties. And transparently, I've been like trying to veer away from the Mermaid Realtor because now it's the Megan Romine team. I feel like that's a little more like the maturity level, that the clientele, that I deal with, but I can't get away from it. People in town will be like, hey, that's the mermaid girl. Like people don't even know my name.
No,
But
because
don't
it's just
like,
like some people I mentioned they're like, oh, is that the Mermaid Realtor? They actually say.
yeah. So it's kind of funny because I've actually tried to like steer clear of that. Like I've tried to like redo some of my branding, but I think it's something that I'm kind of stuck with. But hey, I mean, if people, I just want people to remember that I'm the one that they call when they need help with real estate. So if that's what it takes.
Regardless of what they call, as long as they call you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
It's just one question, like, because you mentioned LinkedIn, because I really don't use LinkedIn at all. That's the one thing I really don't use. Do you use LinkedIn a lot? And does it work?
I started using it over the past year because I found that, as my price ranges continue to increase and the type of clientele that I'm working with, a lot of these professionals are on LinkedIn. Now, I don't post as much on LinkedIn, but I found that when I connect with especially business professionals, adding them on LinkedIn is a great way to connect because some older clientele too, like they don't really do the Instagram. So I think that LinkedIn is great. It's great to like follow people and stay top of mind, or even if I'm on a cold call and like I start talking to someone and they give me their name, I'm going on LinkedIn and
Oh,
adding
you
them
look.
on.
Okay. There's one other question. How do you advise other people to find your personal brand?
Ooh, great question. So it could definitely take some time, but you have to think about like what's really like true to you and like what you enjoy. And like an example, like maybe you have children and it's connecting and networking with like the events for the kids at softball or at volleyball. That's amazing. I'll tell you, some of the best leads that I've seen is from some of my agents that have children and from their school. So anything that resonates with you, because at the end of the day, like people are gonna feel you being genuine. Because listen, I think you guys might be aware of this. People don't really like real estate agents. So they think that they're very salesy. It's hard for them to like build trust. So if you can just really figure out what resonates with you and just be genuine and build relationships, it goes so far. And like also one thing I want to add onto that is that you guys have to do what's best for your clients. I know how hard it is. Listen, I moved out of my apartment, moved in with a roommate. I struggled, you know what I mean? Like we all struggle, but like at the end of the day, there is no deal that I would ever do that is going to help my pocketbook and not help a client. I mean, your character and integrity, no one can take that away from you. So even though you might be like, oh man, that deal, hey, but is that in the best, highest and best use? Is that the best thing for your client? Because you're going to win your client for life with them knowing that you're doing what's in their best interest. I know it should be like, you just like, not, you don't have to say that, but I feel that that's where like a lot of real estate agents really miss the mark. Like be genuine.
Any other questions? Real quick, I just want to mention a couple things before I guess we'll wrap it up. Just as I mentioned, basically I'm doing like these realtor educational classes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Next week we're doing a social media class on Tuesday. On Thursday we're doing a FERPTA, a class on FERPTA. Already working on the December calendar. We're doing like a class on the Hometown Heroes program. I have a CPA speaking on tax planning strategies for real estate professionals. We're doing a finding buyers on the internet class. What else? We're doing what else? Yeah, so basically, we're working on a lot of stuff. But also tomorrow we're doing a $1,000 cash raffle. Okay. So if you're a member of our program, it's like on asktherealestateattorney.com. Go to asktherealestateattorney.com. You can use actually the code LAW to join for free for a month, and cancel anytime, and you'll be eligible for the raffle. We're gonna do it tomorrow at 11 a.m. on Instagram Live. I see a lot of people on the call that are members, and we'll be in the on the raffle. So we're gonna do it live. So so the people on here, good luck, and people enter. But any other questions before we wrap it up? Okay, here I saw another question. What is your advice to break into the luxury market?
Great question. And you're gonna have to go all in. You're gonna have to go all in and be like, I am going to market specifically towards luxury. That's a clientele I'm gonna go towards. So it's not kind of confusing like to your audience. There are ways to spin it, because also too, you have to think people that are buying luxury homes, they're usually already involved in real estate. They're probably building portfolios anyways. It's all about how you tell the story, right? But you're gonna have to get uncomfortable and go all in, and you need to market towards that type of clientele. And also too, where are they hanging out? What are they doing? That's where you need to be. You need to be hanging out at, maybe it's waterfront activities, or maybe it's car clubs or something of that nature, but you're going to need to be hanging out where your clientele is going to be hanging out. I mean, that's, I think, the simple answer to that.
Yeah. Any last questions? Let's give it one more second. All right, I guess we'll wrap it up. But once again, thank you so much, Megan. I know you're really busy, and I really appreciate you taking time to just share your knowledge with everyone on the call. And if you guys, like I said, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Megan, if you reach out to myself. As I mentioned before, if you're in the neighborhood, stop by. We have a lot of Prosecco, we have a lot of pies. I don't know if you saw me waving and stuff like that in the middle of the call, because people keep stopping by picking up stuff. So I'm trying not to get them to be loud and interrupt the call. So, but yeah, stop by if you want. And then as I said, next Tuesday we're gonna do that class on social media, and tomorrow that raffle. So check it out, join the program, and be eligible for the raffle. And yeah, everyone have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving and everything else.
Thank you guys. And Giovanni, thank you to you and your team for like always helping us and supporting us. And we're very fortunate to work with you. You're amazing, and your team. And thank you guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for everything always. All right. So everyone have a great day. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.